All right, today we're going to dive deep into something truly beautiful and significant, the Islamic marriage ceremony, known as the Nikkah. We're going to break down what it is, why it's so important, and all the key parts of this sacred contract.
But first, let's start with a bigger question. What is it that turns a wedding day into a promise that's meant to last a lifetime? Well, the idea of the Nikkah gives us a really powerful way to look at it, framing marriage not just as a big celebration, but as a deeply meaningful contract. So, to really get it, we've got to start with the word itself. What exactly is Nikkah?
At its heart, Nikkah is simply the Islamic word for marriage, but it's so much more than just a word. It really signifies a sacred and, a legally binding contract. So this isn't just a symbolic thing. It's a formal agreement that kicks off a brand new relationship, one with very clearly defined rights and responsibilities for both people.
Okay, so that's the what. Now let's get into the why. What's the real purpose of marriage in Islam? Because I'll tell you, it goes way beyond just finding a companion. I mean, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Imam Ali, when describing his wife Fatima, called her the best helper in worshiping Allah. That really gets to a core idea that the right partner is someone who helps you on your spiritual journey. The marriage itself becomes a kind of worship.
And that vision gets even bigger when you look at it like this. Marriage is seen as fulfilling a totally natural and spiritual need. It's meant to bring peace and tranquility into your life. Of course, it's a way to continue the human family, but it's also seen as a kind of protection, something that helps believers avoid sin. And the ultimate goal? It's a path to bring the couple closer to God.
So, now that we get the why, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Since Nikkah is a formal contract, there are certain conditions that absolutely have to be met for it to be valid. Think of them like the essential pillars that hold the entire structure up. Without them, it all falls down.
And yep, there are 4 of them. 4 non-negotiable pillars that have to be there for the marriage to be seen as legitimate and blessed in the eyes of the faith. So let's break them down real quick. First, and this is a huge one, mutual consent. Both the bride and groom have to freely and willingly say yes, no question. Second, you have the wali, or guardian. This is usually the bride's father or a close male relative, and their permission shows the family's support and protection. Third, you need 2 adult Muslim witnesses. Their job is to see it happen, making the contract public and official. And fourth is the mahar. This is a mandatory gift from the groom to the bride. It's a symbol of his commitment, and it becomes her property, and hers alone.
Okay, so with those 4 pillars firmly in place, how does the ceremony actually happen? Let's walk through the main steps of what you'd see. It's a pretty clear and organized process. It kicks off with everyone agreeing on the terms, especially that mahar we just talked about. Then, the guardian gives their formal consent. This leads right into the heart of the ceremony, the formal offer and acceptance. After that, you'll often hear beautiful verses from the Quran recited. The couple will then state their vows and physically sign the marriage contract. And finally, the whole thing is wrapped up with prayers for their future together.
Now, within those steps, there are some specific words and spiritual moments that are just absolutely central to the Nikkah. So let's zoom in on a couple of those because they're really important.
Okay, this right here, this is the moment the marriage legally happens. It's the exchange of the ijab and kabul. You can think of it as the verbal core of the whole contract. The ijab is the formal offer of marriage, and the kabul is the formal acceptance. That public declaration, right there in front of the witnesses, is what seals the deal.
Many ceremonies also include a khutbah, which is basically a sermon. The imam will deliver a short talk that reminds everyone, but especially the couple, about the spiritual meaning of what they're doing, their responsibilities to each other and to God. It really sets a beautiful, purposeful tone for the whole event.
And to understand just how important marriage is, you just have to look at powerful statements like this one from the Prophet Muhammad. When he calls marriage his sunnah, his path, his practice, he's elevating it to a core act of faith. It's something to be cherished and something to be followed. It's a really big deal.
And finally, the entire ceremony wraps up with a dua. This is a really beautiful moment. It's a collective prayer where everyone present joins in to ask God to just shower the newlyweds with blessings, to grant them a life filled with goodness, and to make their union a source of peace and real happiness.
And so, that brings us right back to where we started, with a question for you to think about. After seeing the pillars, the steps, and the incredible spiritual weight of the ceremony, how does it change things when you view marriage not just as a romance, but as a sacred contract? How does that shape the foundation of a life together?
It's a powerful idea to reflect on. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.